You're just joining us, thank you. We're just getting everything up and running, making sure we're online.
I think we are good to go. Can someone check Facebook? It's the only one I can't see.
Yeah, Facebook's good.
Cool. All right, guys.
All right.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Javad Shadzi, and this is Nate Stewart. We're here to answer all your questions about all things 034. Certainly anything about our products and services, anything automotive that you'd like to talk about, anything about our company, about our history, our philosophy. You like us, you don't like us, let us know. We are not engaging in trolling, so if you're trolling, we will block you from our channel. We'll make it easy for you and for us. And we're here to answer topical questions, not so much update questions. So if you have questions about whether we're going to do something or not, or when something's going to be done, feel free to ask, but we may not respond to it. Those questions get kind of put at the bottom for the end of the hour, and we've up till now never had time to get to those. If you do ask one and it seems relevant and we can give you a good answer, then we certainly will. But don't be upset if we don't get to it. But certainly feel free to ask a topical question with an answer that we can actually deliver. We take an OBS approach to responding, and we really value truth and accuracy over everything. So that's our goal here, is to put out accurate information. There's a lot of bad information out there. We don't want to contribute to that. All right, we got questions rolling in, so we'll start jumping on some of them. Someone's asking about Project S4.0T. Is it still going? They said, love the work you guys put out. You know, we didn't do everything we wanted with that project. We did get the B8.5 S4 converted with the 4.0T engine. And we did take it to SEMA for 1 or 2 years. And the car ran and was essentially finished. But we didn't get it really... We decided not to take the time to kind of go stage 3 and big turbo and really make it into a monster. We had goals of doing like a big wide body on it and stuff. You know, those kind of projects are fun, and certainly our plan was to use that for a video series and for content. The reality is that those type of projects require a lot of R&D, and that R&D takes away from our other R&D.
Yeah.
And so it just became clear after a few years that our engineering department, our calibration departments, our service department just didn't have the time to dedicate to going any further with that project than we already had. And even up to that point, it used a lot of engineering time, which we can be using to make new products or make current products better, or whatever we decide to do with that engineering time. So we did end up selling the car to our service manager, who now owns it.
Yep.
And who's kind of doing some of that stuff to the car on his own time. And I think our goal is to do an update about the car and where it's at now. Once he's a little further along with it, but he's already done a lot with the car.
Yeah, a lot of the just
Turned up the boost.
Yeah, little
Yeah.
clean up and finish up, and almost every project is easy to get it 90% done. It's that last 5-10% that just take it out of you.
So we struggle with these type of projects. We have a lot of engineering resources here. It's not like we don't.
Right.
But we always need all of the engineering resources we have. No matter how much we have, we find we need it. So I don't know. I think in the past we did a lot of projects. I would be here on weekends and evenings personally working on it. So would Nate. So would various team members. We all have families and lives, and I don't really want to be working on a car all weekend after working on cars and doing car stuff all week. So I want to go chill. I want to unload, decompress, spend time with my loved ones, and so we just don't always have the time. So it's, do we want to take the time out of our productivity to do these projects? And so I don't know. I wouldn't expect to see a lot of projects like that from us in the future.
It's tough.
We just have a hard time balancing.
Yeah, we have to make it a priority if we're going to do something like that. And it usually when we're doing big projects like that, it works better if we can integrate some sort of actual R&D into a relatable product or some sort of project we're already working on. So if we're doing some wild, crazy R&D stuff that can tie into a really cool build, then that makes it a lot easier to bring to completion.
Yeah, and you can look at every one of our in-house development cars as a project. I mean, we get a stock B9 S4, and now one of our B9 S4s has 800 horsepower. And that's a pretty cool project just on its own. But all of the work on that car has contributed directly to products. So there's on the spectrum of project cars, there's high applicability projects and there's high concept projects. Yeah. So if you look back at our projects over the years, the GTI RS was high concept. In fact, I don't really think we developed even one new product out of that huge project. Like, arguably the biggest project we've ever done resulted in basically no new products.
I mean, I got some more experience, skill set, mind space on a lot of the Motronic side of things, because I had basically stripped that down to a stock Motronic ECU down to a drive-by-wire controller essentially for that, because we were doing that
and ABS
on standalone, but it had to keep the ABS happy, it had to keep the drive-by-wire system happy. So.
And that's good. Some of your knowledge has contributed to our products.
Yeah, it helped some with some
but
schooling.
Almost 100% concept. And then you have other projects like any of our in-house project cars that 100% of what we do on those applies to a product. And so you just see us more and more realizing that that's the best way to use our time and energy. And so this S4.0T was kind of in the middle where it was like, we did actually release one product. We have a radiator relocation kit for if you're doing a 4.0T conversion. We have one product on our website that has sold quite well. I think we sold like 10 of them. But anyways, that's kind of a little bit about that.
Yep. And similarly, I mean, our software development stuff, we got deeper into some more of the intricacies of the chassis control systems just because we had to make it all work. So you always get benefit from them, but it's a huge time commitment.
All right, let's move on. Regarding the piston skirt issue, could you please explain how I can tell if my car is experiencing it? Well, a lot of times there's no indication, and you just have a piston that basically just cracks in half and blows up.
If it's going to be an insta failure like that, yeah. The dealers are, to my knowledge, still the only way they're checking it is a scope on cylinders 5 and 6 primarily.
Yeah.
And looking at cylinder wall scoring.
But we have one employee here who started hearing a louder knocking sound from their engine, and actually surprisingly drove on it for quite a while like that. And that car has since, it was a stock SQ5, and it has since been to the dealership and confirmed to have a cracked piston.
Oh, it did? I hadn't heard about that one.
So it sounds like the dealership will be warranting it under warranty. The car was stock. I think even if you had a tune on it, if you could flash it back to stock, you'd probably be okay, because the dealerships are well aware that this is an issue now.
That's a thing.
So if you hear any knocking sounds from your engine, if you start experiencing misfires, that's another way. A lot of times the cracks form in the piston skirt, and that particular piston will start losing compression. So if you do a compression leak down on your motor, you would observe lower figures in, very likely cylinder 5 and 6.
The one of the pistons we actually sent out for analysis when we were doing that was that the piston looked from the top basically perfect.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until you did like a side profile where you could see the ring, like between the ring lands, you get a couple of cracks through them, and then like these spider cracks coming out from like the rod journal.
But that piston was intact.
But it was an intact piston, and it just had zero, basically almost no compression on that, because the ring gaps got basically compromised and the rings got stuck in. So.
And we've scoped plenty of motors or worked with customers who, if you put a borescope in there, you can see a crack down the middle of the piston. So that's how this stuff is happening. I think in a lot of cases there is fair warning. We've had customers like, I heard a weird knocking sound and my engine was misfiring, so I did one more launch control quarter-mile run just to see what would happen.
Pull through 6th gear to see where it was at.
And it's like, oh, it blew up, huh? Okay, yeah, that's not surprising. So,
yeah, mechanical sympathy goes along.
I'm glad you asked this question. It's a great question.
Yep.
If you do sense any of these misfires or weird noises from the motor, definitely stop what you're doing. Try to park the car and evaluate it. It's much cheaper to fix if the piston doesn't let go. Once the piston lets go, you probably need a new block at that point, and there's all kinds of knock-on effects with oil pressure, and you might need a new crank. So if you want to have the chance of saving the motor and being able to rebuild it, or even get it warrantied, heed those warnings.
Yep.
Why does it seem like the EA888.3 Audi VW 4-cylinders are more reliable than the V6 EA839?
The Mk7 motors?
I mean, in some ways they are. They're not plagued with the piston cracking issue. Other than that, though, the EA839 is very reliable.
Yeah, I mean, all motor series generally, I mean, obviously the 888.3 has been out for a lot longer. There's always teething issues. There's PCV reload. The Mk7 breather system was kind of a nightmare.
Well, they probably don't remember when every single turbo blew on
all the
every
turbos
single
blew up. There's been teething problems.
All of the turbos blew up.
We've basically forgotten about them at this point because they've been resolved over the years. But
those motors specifically don't have a piston cracking problem. No. They presumably have good quality Moly pistons and all of them.
Sure, they have different problems. They have a massive PCV breather problem if you're under high G situations. They have all of the turbos snapped in half for the most part.
But overall, it's a good, reliable platform. Generally, maybe not being as stressed as hard either. But I mean, this piston cracking issue is an odd one. I think we've seen it in B8s too, so it probably existed in the B8s, but since they're lower stress,
much less,
just didn't have as much of, didn't manifest as much. But and let's keep in mind, the vast majority of B9s are very reliable and won't experience this problem, so it's kind of hit or miss on which cars do. Just wondering why the C7.5 3.0 CRECs don't offer advanced launch control like the C7.
It's a CPU architecture thing. It's a whole different software system inside the CREC. We are working on it. We'll have more advanced launch features coming. There's no technical reason we don't have it in there. Simply just a time and development resources thing.
Do you want to answer number 3?
Would you be able to provide some technical insight on how TVS engineering is able to flash the 401 bootloader for Mark 8s and 034 looking to do something similar or different? I don't have technical information. I don't know specifically what they're doing, other than what they have released publicly. From what I have seen and read, what they've released is that they are connecting to the TCU directly, doing a bootloader, basically a bench level reflash, which is not through the OBD port. You must connect to the TCU directly, get into its, basically supplier service mode stuff, rewrite your software in there so that you're allowed to then flash via OBD, and then from that point on, you can do just like what we're doing is the OBD flashing. It's not far off from how we flash a lot of ECUs these days, where they're not intended to be flashed. We have to get our exploit loaded in first. That unlocks the ability to then load the rest of the file in. So it's not that far out of the normal for a lot of these exploits and how they have to happen. But I can't speak to the specific nature of their process.
They're choosing to go a real labor-intensive, difficult way.
It's not generally something that it's not a normal flash like you're used to for your ECU or whatever right now, where you just plug a dongle in and flash. It needs to be connected directly to the transmission first to get unlocked. But until then you still can't flash the TCU. So unless something's changed, but that's the last I read. That was where they were at.
Does having low tire tread cause delayed torque response? Lower tread tires should be on the rear or front axle. No, not in and of itself. I mean, imperceptible amounts of difference, but not unless it causes your tires to spin.
If you want to get technical, it actually is increased torque response. As your tires wear, your overall diameter will get smaller, and that will be a more effective torque. Your gear ratio basically reduces as your tire size goes down.
But I mean, we're talking about.
But it's
insignificant.
That's what I'm saying. There's no functional or mathematical reason it would get worse by a reduced.
I would say something that's much more noticeable is the compliance of your drivetrain, like the motor mounts and transmission mounts and things like that. So things like our inserts, our density mounts, our motorsport mounts will reduce the compliance of your drivetrain mounting components. And so when that torque exits the transmission into the axles, whether it be the front axles or the prop shaft or whatever, the mounts flexing less means that power transfers more directly, and that's something you can actually feel. So if you want to do something about that, focus on there first. How do you guys find marketing has changed over the years? That's a great question. It's changed in a lot of ways, and it hasn't changed in other ways.
Look behind us. There used to be magazines.
Yeah, I'll say the biggest ways it's changed is the internet initially, and then subsequently social media has completely changed marketing. So it used to be, if you had a tuning company or you had a product line, you'd want to get it in a magazine like this. Right. That magazine's out of business, so it's pretty much every other one. I think Performance VW might be the last one.
Yeah, we have dozens of articles on the walls around the office here. I think every publication is completely shuttered.
But it used to be that the biggest, best tuning companies would have regular articles featuring their builds, their cars, and so you would set out every year to build a new project car, and you would get in the magazine. The car would have to be exciting enough to get it featured. It was even to the extent that we got to know the different magazine editors, and we would say, "What do you want to write about? What sounds exciting to you? What will motivate you to write an article?" And they'll say, "Well, we've been wanting to see this and this and this." And it's like, okay, cool. We'll do a version of that.
Yeah, that ties a lot into the first question we answered about the S4 T. Is those kind of builds would be, the seed of those would almost always start with a magazine or a huge marketing initiative that we had and would drive a lot of interest towards us in that way. Is doing something wild and crazy that would get you a huge feature, multi-page spread in a magazine. Used to mean a lot.
It did, but basically all those magazines have gone out of business, and the ones that are left hardly anyone reads. Their circulation has gone way down. There was even things like Speed Hunters and Jalopnik that they were magazines essentially online, and even those have really fallen off. I think Speed Hunters shut down, didn't they?
I have not looked in years.
Maybe
that's
not
part of the problem.
But I haven't seen anything from them in a long time. There was others as well. Jalopnik's writing about all kinds of stuff these days.
All over the place.
It's not much about cars anymore. So there's that, and then now it's more about the customers, the market, the people are on Instagram and Facebook to some extent, and it's even moved on beyond that to these chat groups, everywhere.
Speed Hunters is still around. It looks like they haven't done anything since April of this year, though. They had a bunch of articles
I saw some
up until April,
from
and it's kind of like
maybe the site's there, but they're not doing anything new with it. But, anyways, so the way you reach the customers, the way you get people's attention is changing. However, at the end of the day, the marketing is the same. You need a good quality product. You need good customer service. You want people to tell other people good things about your company, about your brand. That's how you've always been successful, and I think for the time being, until there's some huge paradigm shift in how humans socialize, it's going to be that the best marketing is making the customers you have happy, and having them tell other customers that they're happy. People take other people's opinions about products and services very highly because there's this idea that people's opinions and perceptions are unbiased. If you ask your friend, hey, whose intake should I buy? He's presumably not getting paid by any of those companies to tell you. He's just speaking, presumably truthfully, that the best intake is the one he knows, that he's used or whatever. So if he says, oh, definitely get the 034 one, I got that, it's awesome, it does everything well, the chance of you believing that is very high because it's probably true, and I think in most cases it is.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at the end of the day, the result is the same, but the way we go about contacting the customers and establishing our brand and educating the market about our brand and that we even exist is changing rapidly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's similar to how you're experiencing the world, the decisions you make about new products and stuff. YouTube's also very big now. People, our market in particular, but I think the average consumer does research on YouTube. They search around and see what are people saying. Who's posting about what. What's the best intake on the market? Google it or search it on YouTube and see. People watch those videos and spend quite a bit of time researching their purchases.
Yeah,
based
it's
on
a whole
YouTube
different
videos.
frontier of information intake. And I was interesting. I was listening to a podcast this morning, or radio, or news thing, and the original iPhone is now 18 years old.
God.
So there's now no new adults in the world that are going to be in a world that haven't had a smartphone in their pocket or known what that world looks like.
Right.
So yeah, it's very much another generation of technology.
Yeah, I remember when the iPhone came out, it was like, someday people are gonna buy things on mobile, like getting your website like mobile
friendly websites.
Yeah, mobile friendly website.
Used to be a
15 years ago, there was this huge push by like, if and at that time I remember seeing some stats, a few years after the iPhone came out, that like 5% of consumers are buying, making e-commerce purchases on their smartphone or mobile phone. It was like, someday it could be like 50%, and I don't know what it is now. It's probably 90%, So yeah, a lot has changed. What improvement can we expect from 034 street engine and trans mounts for the DAZA? Well, we offer our motorsport mounts for that application, and specifically the street sport and the track sport mounts. Those are going to be substantially stiffer than the factory mounts, so they're going to result, like what I was just talking about, in less compliance, less squishing of the drivetrain. So when you get on the throttle, that power is going to apply much quicker and more directly than with the stock motor mounts. The motorsport mounts are also substantially tougher, stronger, and can handle virtually anything you throw at the car. In fact, the only failures we've ever really seen, which are very few, is not in the mount itself, but in the transmission. Say, at one time we had some guy running 1,000+ horsepower drag racing, and he ended up ripping the mount off the transmission mounting bosses. So he had to weld and repair his transmission. But that's the most extreme. The point is, you don't want the transmission mount breaking, and they won't.
And that wasn't a function of the mount itself. That was just the amount of power being.
I mean, we could weaken the mount so it breaks easier, but at some point when you're making that kind of power, everything starts breaking. So, yeah, I think you'll be very happy with them. Definitely recommend if you're looking for a stiffer driving experience. You got to keep in mind there's going to be more NVH. The street sports aren't horrible, but there will be more NVH than stock. Huge fan of your products for my S4 B9.5. Thank you for the incredible support. Oh, you're very welcome. That's what we're here for. Says, I deeply want 034's ecosystem in my car, but pricing is killing. Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, what we do isn't cheap, and then it's not getting any cheaper.
It's definitely not getting any cheaper.
In the world that we operate in currently, everything seems to be going up in price, so we're doing our best to hold costs while still being able to operate at the level that we always have.
Yep.
But at some point, prices are being raised for us, and at some point we cannot absorb that without either being substantially hurt financially or going out of business. So pricing does have to adjust, unfortunately, and I think we're seeing that all over the place. Another question about pricing. Why is 034's downpipe for B9.5 S4 so expensive compared to others? Anything special? Well, yeah, it depends who you're comparing it to. So ours is more expensive than some low-end options on the market and a lot cheaper than other high-end options, even higher-end option. All the products we offer are going to be high-end. We're looking at releasing premium quality products that we can stand behind as a company. If you ever have a problem with, we will be here and we will be able to take care of you. If you look at the specifications, typically our racing cats are at least Euro 4, sometimes Euro 5 or 6 matrices, and our matrices are like high quality, basically OEM level cats. Unlike some of the stuff you see from competitors that's cheaper, those may flow plenty, but they're not going to catalyze or clean the exhaust. Not nearly to the same degree as ours that are meeting these kind of OE emissions specifications. And then just the quality of the materials, the workmanship, and again, it's something that we stand behind. There are some options out there that I would say are about double the cost of ours, and those options claim to not throw check engine lights. They claim to be kind of EPA, 49 state legal, some of that stuff out there. So ours are priced in the middle of that market, and you're definitely going to get what you pay for with some of those cheaper options out there. Then you got to make sure too, don't compare our racing cats to like test pipes, which are much cheaper to make. That's just a piece of piping. There's no catalyst at all. Let's see. I have a few questions. Besides installing the lower links on my B9.5 SQ5, is there anything else needed since my rear suspension is acting up and height is not steady? No. The lowering links should be all you need to make your height, steady and not changing. So,
assuming the links are the problem, I guess, is the...
Well, the links are pretty simple. I mean, you just lock them in, and so I'm not sure why you would be having that issue.
Yeah, and they're not any. It's not anything. This won't fix anything electrical, or if there's an issue with the sensor,
or a leak, or something.
It literally is just changing the static position of that sensor.
Yeah. I would recommend doing some troubleshooting, see if there's any codes for anything, and go from there. Make sure they're installed correctly, all that stuff. But no, the links, they just install them and they just trick the factory controller. That's it. Guys, what exhaust diameter do you recommend to run on the CREC engine stage 2 with gutted cats?
All of our dyno testing is stock. Stock exhaust diameters.
Yeah, the stock exhaust on these flow just fine.
Yep.
For CREC. I've been considering going stage 1 ECU and TCU tune for my B8.5 S4. Is it worth it over stock?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a huge change, and especially if you've got like ethanol available to you anywhere, it is a massive difference over stock, both in drivability, response, feel, all of the the characteristics and the way it drives, but also the B8.5 in particular got a much lower rev limiter than the B8. I want to say they're like 6,400 off the top of my head. Those motors pull way beyond that. 7,200, they're still making, so the horsepower is still climbing. So you've got a lot of power band that, for whatever reason, Audi chose to chop off on the 8.5, waiting for you.
Yeah.
Yep. Go ahead and get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, all of our products are worth it, but if there's anything, the
stage one tunes on boosted motors
biggest bang.
Yeah, no brainer.
Okay, we got a lot of questions.
There's a lot of questions here, yeah.
Changing all 6 injectors to latest revision, going stage 3 eventually, stage 1 plus now.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, it's so underrated to keep, especially injectors and fuel system stuff maintained on these motors.
Yeah. Anything about pops and bangs on the CREC engines?
We have Oh, geez, I'll have to look and see what the website says. But yeah, we have CREC logo and stuff. I think. Oh, it's not. It's not implemented the same way as the B8.
No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not.
We were playing with it, but no, we don't have anything ready yet. Sorry, my brain was mixing up a different application. Not yet.
But we've heard the feedback, and it's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
that
yeah.
we'll work on. Hello, I have Stage2 034 motorsport car with downpipe and front mount intercooler. I higher RPM.
I think it's in higher.
In higher RPM specified boost is 2500 millibar. Actual is 2450. Every pole's the same. I can't reach specified boost. What can be the issue?
What car? We need to know a little more information here. What car are we talking? Is this a Mk7 GTI? Is it a B8 S4?
I'm sure it's a B9, but
I don't know. It could be.
would it make a big difference?
2550 that is screaming B8 S4 stuff to me.
They're 100 millibar off.
That's a 2+ thing. So give us some more information on your setup.
Yeah.
It's great that you got a downpipe and an intercooler, but on what?
Yeah, and keep that in mind for anyone asking questions.
Anyone that's asking, the more info you can front load us with, the better we can answer.
Just picked up a C7A6. Thoughts on heat exchanger as first mod, planning for stage 1 eventually. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Even on a stock car, they can use more cooling. Definitely on stage 1, it's a required upgrade.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't hurt by getting cooler on
Well, it's
that.
not. We don't require it, but it's a very strongly recommended upgrade.
It is. What's your guys' thoughts on an upgraded drive shaft carrier? I've heard it's necessary, but not part of your lineup. How important is it really? Yeah, there's a lot of hype about upgrading your drive shaft carrier to something stiffer. There's even a company offering different stiffnesses. Honestly, the prop shaft just transfers power from the transmission to the diff, and it just spins. And it just needs to be supported.
It needs to be properly contained and located,
Yeah.
and it shouldn't be like falling apart. And
Yeah, so as long as the drive shaft is balanced and spinning freely, you don't need a real stiff drive shaft carrier support. In some cases, they get old and sag a little bit. Not great. It results in a little misalignment. So all of the drive shaft supports that we sell are basically OE replacement or a little tougher, what we would call high density versions of the factory. But I really don't buy into the whole upgrading your prop shaft to different colors and different stiffnesses. I think there's a lot of hype there. I really don't think that's it's really making any performance difference that you could actually feel. But if your factory one is bad, then sure, you're going to want to fix that.
Yep.
The good thing on the B8, the challenge on the B8 is that the drive shaft does not separate, so there's really no way to maintain the factory drive shaft support if it does fail. And so the products that go in there and kind of clamp around the factory bracket and recenter the drive shaft, those are needed because you can't take it apart and change it. So, yeah. If you're going to spend money, though, on improving your drivetrain performance or feel, I would put it somewhere more.
Yeah, the inserts and mounts are going to be a much bigger, more noticeable change.
Mm-hmm. And not that we couldn't come up with a line of those just like anyone else, but we just chose not to because of the reasons I listed.
Yeah.
B9 RS5 Stage 1 Plus with wooden bad injectors, 75,000 miles. Any benefit to changing all to the latest revision, planning on Stage 3 in spring?
Yes.
Yeah, that's just a cheap insurance. They're not cheap, unfortunately, but compared to what could happen, it's a relatively cheap insurance to make sure that you've got all the right injectors.
75,000 miles that's getting on there for a DI injector.
Yeah, and what I always say is if you want to replace those injectors, then your old ones, send them out, have them tested, cleaned, flowed. You can have a spare set, and then you can kind of swap them out. They do go bad though. They're not. It's not always like
it's
they
not
get
necessarily
clogged.
just a contamination thing.
So you just got to know that the older these injectors are, the more issues they can have, even if they're clean, even if they're flowing good now.
Yep.
So that's why spending $250 an injector to get that level, 700 plus horsepower is worth it.
Yep.
Every few years. Three is a pretty good update question.
Yeah, it's definitely updating.
After I update to Stage 1 ECU, Stage 2 TCU with upgraded intercooler, what would be your recommendations for next mods? B9 SQ5.
I mean, I'm assuming you have all the supported mods for
Definitely
that power
intake.
wise. If you've got ethanol available, the 1 plus path or the 2 plus path, or 1 plus in your case for the ECU, there's a noticeable bump in mid range.
1 plus.
You're going to need the high pressure pump for that. If you don't have an intake of course, and then there's a lot of drivetrain stuff. So yeah, it's going to depend on what you're looking for in the car. We'd need a little more complete mod list, but yeah, 1 plus is the next power bump I would do.
Yeah, I'd say 1 plus, and then if you haven't done suspension stuff, that's a huge improvement in those cars.
Yep.
Specifically 0 through 4 springs and front and rear sway bars, and then inserts really makes a big difference. Got a new Golf R and was wondering if there's a way to adjust all-wheel drive bias to 50/50. Also, when to change diff fluid from a new car.
That's a complicated question. You have a Haldex based all-wheel drive system, so those it's not in the Audi world, not a traditional all-wheel drive system where you've got 3 differentials, you got a front, a center, and a rear. Those are inherently going to always be 50/50 everywhere. Haldex or any of the clutch-based all-wheel drive systems are going to be 0% rear, and then some percent of that applied, and it's going to be controlled by a computer and by whatever the clutch mechanism setup is in the controller. Some can actually be higher than 50/50 depending on gearing. You can overdrive the rear wheels with different gear ratios essentially and push them further or harder than the front. So it depends again on what differential option, what drivetrain option you've got in there, but there's not going to be it's not a traditional differential, so the 50/50 split gets interesting. It's going to be limited by, in your case, clutch pressures, clamping forces, and whatnot that can be applied to the Haldex when it is engaged. So there's not an easy way to adjust that aside from some very complicated software and or hardware changes. Mostly would be hardware changes needed to really dramatically alter that.
Yeah. Do you guys ever revise tunes that you've already shipped? If so, what's the notification process, and is there a change log?
We oftentimes update things. As far as a change log, we don't have like a good repository of change log stuff. A lot of it is, I don't know how to. It's either refinements or added features or proprietary information we can't necessarily disclose all of our changes for. We'll generally give like a high-level explanation of what changes you can expect to see, feel, or why we're pushing an update. But yeah, we make updates all the time. We've got B8 stuff. We're still issuing new tunes and setups for. We've got updates for everything. We don't generally end of life anything, and if it's on the website, we're supporting it.
Yeah, so you'll get an email from us.
And I take it back. We do end of life things, but if we're actively selling it, we are in a position where if we need to, we can and will update it as needed.
Yeah. Someone's asking about all these pulleys. These pulleys are here to represent a tune that we cannot put on the table, unfortunately, because it doesn't exist in the real world.
Hey, the tune's here too.
Only in the acceleration performance of your car. But we did release our CREC Stage 2 ECU upgrade this week.
2 plus.
Stage 2 plus. We have had Stage 1 and 2 on the market for a while. The 2 plus is a continuation of the power output from Stage 2, basically generating over 500 horsepower on 93 octane and about 476 horsepower on 91. I've personally been driving around on the 91 octane tune for quite a while. The car is even very fast on that. It's a proper quick car. I've taken out cyber trucks with it. I don't know how fast those are supposed to be, but there's been a few that could not keep up. And so I would love to even be on the 93, and I'm really looking forward to the E85 version, which is coming soon.
Yep, that's going to need some more parts, but
Yeah,
it's coming.
but that's going to be really, really fast. And this 2 Plus is it does make your your Q7 A6 into a proper quick car. Not gonna be the fastest thing on the road, but I don't know.
In most cases, it's pretty darn quick. There's not a lot of other like 500 horsepower rigs rolling around that are like day to day.
I honestly haven't found much. I haven't personally experienced anything that could
I mean, there's always like the exotic stuff, and the bit there's a lot of so many SUVs these days are just absurd. But
I mean,
for the most part, you're not gonna have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're talking almost 500 crank horsepower in 91. It's a lot of power. Yeah. It is currently on sale through the 16th for a few more days. The 2 Plus is $675 for the 2 Plus, but you can upgrade if you're on Stage 2.
Yeah, it's just the difference.
It's less than $100 to upgrade. So, someone says, with Stage 2 Plus on EA837 CREC 3.0T, why the delay with the 85? We just simply need more time to work on the 85. We finished the 91, 93 maps, and so instead of waiting to finish the E85 and release them all at once, we've chosen to release the 91, 93, so you can start enjoying those now.
Yep.
The E85 is coming.
Yep. We've got, calibrations are there. There's some other components that we're working on.
And then while we're talking about new products, we did release our 2-piece rear rotor brake upgrade for the B9 this week. Unfortunately, we don't have one on the table here, but it allows you to upsize your rear brakes from 330 to 370 mil. And it includes a new caliper carrier, which locates the factory caliper out further where it belongs with the bigger rotor. It's $10.95 for the whole kit. And we do offer 3 different colors. Yeah.
Red, black, and gray.
And then the rear dust shield is not retained, so that gets removed because it doesn't work with the bigger rotor, and honestly, you don't really need it. All right. All those are on our website if you'd like to go check them out. 034motorsport.com. My rear main seal just started leaking on my Mk7 GTI. What do you guys recommend for replacements? And while I'm in there, well, definitely you should use our billet rear main seal for that application listed on our website. It uses a, ironically or whatever, a older style seal that's actually more reliable than the newer style factory seal that you have.
Maybe not.
Yeah. But it's a billet housing that allows this updated seal to be in this retrofitted, more reliable, older style seal to be installed. While you're in there, if your car is a manual, you definitely want to consider doing clutch and flywheel work. I think things like motor mounts and transmission mounts, you're going to be pulling the transmission out, so that kind of stuff could be considered. Anything to do with turbos and downpipes, you're going to be in there. And then things like dog bone mounts, your subframe is probably going to have to drop for all that. So yeah, there's a lot. I mean, anything that you're touching, related to dropping the transmission out of the car, you could do while you're there. Best model Audi for beginner track days. Looking for a dedicated car to learn and work on.
Dedicated track.
I mean, there's lots of Audis that would be good. I would say the first thing that pops to mind would be like a B9.5 with like a big brake kit, and maybe springs and sway bars, just so that you can kind of get the car under control a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's a very good tossable car. Not too much power. Thermally, it can lap for full track sessions. Just needs a little help with the brakes. I think that would be a great car, and you could be out the door for like 20 grand, just for a good reliable car that runs well.
Yep. Yeah, I was thinking I don't know what budget and stuff is. Obviously, there's the Mark III TT is a fantastic chassis. Holds up really well on the track, and it's still very approachable to drive and in its stock setup.
You're just not going to need a lot of horsepower. You don't need to
it's
go
not
out.
about, it's not about the car for your first, however many dozen track days. It's you getting out there and just putting the time in and learning, being a sponge.
You don't need to get out there with 400 horsepower or anything like that.
No.
Number 2 we already did. If I upgrade to the 034 big brake kit, do you think I can add my OEM fronts to the rear without a bigger brake booster?
OEM
No.
fronts to the rear, like calipers?
Yeah, they want to
No.
move their front caliper to the rear. I don't think so.
Totally different mounting, and then e-brake provisions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's not that simple.
You would have to keep the factory you'd have to go dual caliper, and I mean, I don't know. I honestly haven't done it. I'm guessing that the factory brake master cylinder isn't going to be sized correctly.
There's that. Well, you'll be running, basically 3 calipers, and then, but also
Yeah.
the rotor thicknesses are completely different. You have to
Yeah.
move rotors around, and
That's a big issue.
It's all it's
Yeah,
not.
the factory, to Nate's point, the factory caliper is designed for a much wider rotor, so the pistons will be way out in their bores.
If you just
and
put
they
them
would
on,
pop out.
if you're just putting them over your stock rear rotors,
They would basically pop out. So that's not a good idea. What you do need to do is you don't need any more than what the factory caliper can do. If you just want it to look a certain way for shows or whatever, and you're not really driving the car or driving it very hard, then you could do whatever you want. Or you could go out and find a caliper designed for that size rotor, like from Willwood or something from like the Porsche factory.
In general, I mean, our upsized rear rotor diameter is all you would need, and then some. It's the rear brakes are generally much less stressed than the front.
What's a relatively safe power level to be at for daily driven EA888 Gen 4?
I mean, all of our current
All of
files
our-
we daily
Yeah, everything we offer.
for that motor. Yeah,
Even the Garrett Power Max stuff
it's
is
been
great.
on the GTI forever now.
Mhm.
It's,
It's really fun. How much difference between street sport and track sport mounts for the MQB? The track sport are substantially stiffer durometer rubber. I would say they have a lot more NVH than the street sport. The street sport still has quite a bit. If you're going to run the track sport, you either have to not care about NVH or just don't care about it. There's just no option.
or force yourself not to care.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of NVH, a lot of vibrations. So the street sport's going to minimize that as much as possible. But in either case, if any NVH is objectionable to you, then you don't want to do either one of these. B9 RS5, thoughts on Wagner intercooler without heat exchanger upgrade running stage 3 on street daily with 2 to 3 HPDE events yearly.
I would say if you're doing HPDEs, you should probably do the full package.
Yeah, you need
it needs all the help it can get.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe on the street, it's not going to be as important.
Street,
but-
usually it's a pull here and there. And
Yeah.
you've got enough thermal mass in the intercooler to take it on. But on track, you really need that shedding, the heat transferability of the front mount to help out.
Will the dealership check the car for free for piston skirt issue under warranty? You can ask. I would say no if there's no reason. There's no reason to believe that you have a problem. If there's no symptom, they probably won't. But like I said, you could ask. But generally, warranties are reserved for problems with your car that have symptoms. Be like asking if you can go to the doctor to be evaluated for cancer, but you're like perfectly healthy. It's like it probably will give you a hard time.
Regardless, you're going to be paying for a doctor's visit. No, I don't have any free trips to the doctor in this country. A lot of questions here.
What's the easiest way to check motor mounts for a B8 S4? The easiest way is to get in there and see is there fluid leaking on the mounts.
Yeah, they will actually bleed. Some of them.
If there's fluid leaking, it means the mount is torn, and once the fluid leaks out, the mount collapses.
Yeah, so there's two sections to the mount. There's a top just vulcanized rubber, and then there's essentially a diaphragm and then fluid filled beneath that. If that chamber ruptures, then yes, you'll get fluid coming out everywhere. The other failure mode on those is the top will actually just kind of completely separate from its vulcanized piece. That's a trickier one to diagnose from under the car and what you can kind of see. Sometimes with a hood up, you can kind of load up the clutch with your foot on the brake and see if the motors are really moving a lot. But yeah, it's not the easiest failure to see externally without getting in there and taking it out. Chances are it's probably bad. This day and age, if you haven't done your mounts on a B8 or know when they were last done, then you've got a pretty good chance you've got some smoked mounts.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. We've got a lot of questions.
We've got a lot of questions here. Yeah, let me see if there's anything we want.
What's the warranty on the Super Duper throttle body? The warranty on most of our products is 1 year. However, I'm not really aware of any issues we've ever had with the Super Duper throttle body, and we do really strive to support our customers regardless of how long it's been since they bought it. So I think there's a good chance that if you ever had a problem with that, we would warranty it for you and take care of you. At least minimum offer you like a really cheap option to upgrade it. But yeah, no, it's a problem-free product. So there's a handful of products where we just say, you know what, we've never had an issue with this product that has a lifetime warranty. But I mean, in general, we're not in the business of selling crap that breaks after a year so we can get out of warranting it. We're here to stand behind the products. B8.5 S4, Stage 2 Plus E40 throttle body upgrade or throttle upgrade. Running into fuel cut at launch, first through second. Pretty sure it's the fuel pump. What's the best upgrade?
We would need to see logs to see exactly what you're seeing. If it's a launch and you're getting a fuel cut thereabouts, it depends really on what level, like what your fuel tank level is. It's usually the first thing we'll look at. If you're getting slosh in the tank to the point where the internal tank pump is losing, access to fuel essentially, then yeah, you're going to get a fuel cut no matter what. It's not necessarily a problem with the pump. It's a problem with physics and the fuel not being at the pump. But we can see that in logs. If you've got a pump that's marginal and and just kind of right on the line, is kind of worn out and giving you all it can at all times, and under whatever situation it's not able to get just enough fuel in that situation, then maybe the pump is tired. But we should be able to see that in logs. So yeah, work with our team tuning out, and we'll see if we can get you sorted out.
Why does the Stage 2 91 and 93 tune for the B9 S4 S5 require upgraded intercooler if the Stage 1 E85 tune makes more power and doesn't require it?
It's not all about power. There are different boost targets and whatnot, so you can make, given a higher octane fuel with less boost, you'll make more power than you will on a lower octane fuel. Your engine, a lot of people think E85 is either harder on the motor or harder on some of the components. Typically, it's actually a more favorable operating condition for everything. It's a less stress. You could say this is more cylinder pressures because it's making more power, but it's a less volatile fuel. Your EGT, your exhaust gas temperatures are lower. You're generally running less boost to achieve the same amount of torque as you would for a lower octane fuel. So generally, it's a more efficient system overall. But yeah, the intercooler is just part of. You want to hit our Stage 2 numbers, you need an intercooler. Our Stage 1 numbers are all set up with a stock car in mind. So that's why we often say you'll make darn near Stage 2 power on Stage 1 if you do all of the supporting mods.
Yeah, the E85 tune is not flowing more air into the motor. It's not necessarily even running more boost.
Right.
So the amount of bang from the fuel is more in E85 than what anyone can do with 91 or 93. And a lot of that is just simply due to the volatility of 91 and 93. So those tunes have to run lower timing, and so there's an amount of mechanical torque that's created based on the timing curve. And if combustion can start sooner, then that explosion or wave of pressure hits the piston sooner in the downstroke, which can generate more power and torque. So that the intercooling requirements between gasoline and ethanol don't change. So you actually need more intercooler for the gasoline tunes because they're having to run harder to even make less power. Great question. Glad you asked it. I was trying to think of like a food analogy or something. It's like, the amount of calories in a piece of steak is as much as like a bucket full of broccoli.
You do the good fat versus bad fat stuff.
Yeah. Do you see making more replacement parts for the B5 S4 platform? We would. The market is going to determine what we do and how much we invest. So, if there are B5 S4 products that you would like to see, definitely let us know. We have released B5 products in the last few years. We're one of the few companies that still do. I think there's an opportunity out there for replacement parts, parts from the factory that have been no longer available. So keep us posted, but we're not actively pursuing B5 products. So it's going to be more driven by the market. It's got a couple more minutes. Same, someone's asking, what do you got for the B5? We actually have a big product line for B5. If you go to our website, put in your year, make, model, and you'll see quite a few products still for the B5.
Yep.
You guys spoke about the TTA10 having the potential to provide more horsepower with more fueling and a built motor. Does the Pure 750 have the same potential? I mean, it certainly does in the mid-band where we're currently keeping torque down.
It's only mid-range, really.
Yeah, but the top end, no. The turbos, same with the A10, they're both pretty much making the most power they can make at the top of the power band. But if you have a stronger motor that can hold up to that peak torque, especially with rods and pistons, then there will be power to make opportunity to make more power through the mid band, but
not a ton. It's pretty close to tapped out.
We're looking at just overall bigger, higher flowing turbo options for that, and that's really what it's going to take. But at some point, we're going to see the power band start to shift up higher because there's only the idea that you can still make a ton of torque at 3,500 RPM and still make a lot more power at 7,500 RPMs. The physics determines that the power band is going to shift up higher. So
without really exotic, control system changes and turbo technology changes on it, you're not going to get the best. You're not going to get both more torque and more horsepower. Down low torque, anyway.
Yeah. Russell Simmons says, "Keep up the great work, content, videos, guys. You're welcome."
Thanks.
Yeah, we're trying to do more and more of that stuff for you guys because we know that's what everyone really likes. Which brake pads do you recommend for B9 S4 two-piece rotors? Well, we would recommend our own brake pads for those. If you check out our website, we have some really nice street performance pads that are noticeable upgrade for the street. They're not track pads. We are coming out with those as well. But these are the pads that, if we could have any brake pad on the street, this is the compound that we arrived at. Maybe one more question. How would you recommend preloading 0-4 control arms if you were going from lowering springs to coilovers? I'm not sure the new ride height, if it'll be higher or lower. You could try guessing and putting it in the middle somewhere, but really what you're going to want to do is adjust your ride height, get it where you want it, and then loosen those bolts.
Yeah, there's no... You're going to be taking it all apart anyway. You're going to be... The whole suspension's essentially going to be loose and or being worked on. So yeah, you really need to pop those loose. And once you figure out your desired static ride height, go ahead and get those adjusted. Because it's also, if they're not set right, they're affecting your spring... Basically your spring rate. They're preloaded while the car's sitting there. So if you've got coilovers you're trying to get dialed in and whatnot, they're going to be pushing or pulling on those as well.
You guys are awesome. Been on the Stage 3 file since it was released on the RS5. Hoping to go faster in the quarter mile this year. Anything upcoming for the current Stage 3 files? Well,
yes.
So happy to hear that. And that is the experience that the vast majority of all of our customers have.
Yep.
And yes, we have some really cool, exciting stuff coming for that. Just stay tuned. There's a lot. All right, I think we are out of time, unfortunately. A lot of questions that we did not get to answer. Thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate your involvement. We love being here and doing this with you guys. So I think we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
All right, cheers.
Take care.